Good morning, everyone. Welcome. So, today we're going to do something a little different. I had some questions written in for you shy folks out there. So, I will answer the questions. But if anyone has any questions while we are live, let me know in the comments and I will definitely get them answered. I'm excited to be here with you guys. This is my second live on multiple platforms, and I'm still like, so let's get started. Jessica had a question that I'm sure most of us ADHD parents can relate with. She said, how can I create a structure that helps my child thrive without feeling like a drill sergeant? Yeah, I've been there. Basically, we're going to think of it like we're building a sturdy playground and not a military base. So, you want to give them some structure to let their brains know what's coming next, but they're unpredictable, right? Even though their brains crave the roadmap and the predictability to get us where we need to be, they're also spinning. So we have to leave a little wiggle room in there for us to be flexible. I often tell my ADHD clients that I need them to be the lighthouse in their child's hurricane, and some revolt and they're like, that's not fair. But it is fair. It gives them a home base of letting them know what's to be expected. So even when they're out there spinning, they still know that mom and dad are going to be doing what we've always done, and that they can fall right back into that pattern of breakfast at 8, playtime at 9, nap at 1, and so on and so on. All right. Next up, Jay asks, my child seems to thrive on chaos. Is structure really that important? Yes, I do believe that structure is that important because, like I said, even though they are unpredictable, they are spontaneous, they are out there spinning at 100, and we are trying to bring them back to ground zero, and it is just chaos might feel like their natural habitat, but structure is our secret weapon. Like I said, their brains are constantly looking for the roadmap of what comes next. What do I do next? My son, I'll be telling my son a story, and his brain is 5 steps ahead of where I'm at. But if he knows after he go ahead and skips forward those 5 steps, he knows he can come right back to where I am and we'll fall right back into line. So his brain is working super fast and he's out there and he's, all of that. But me being his structured home base reduces his anxiety, helps boost his confidence because he knows what's coming next and he knows what's expected of him. So he feels accountable and responsible. And it's really just how I operate, to be honest. When I had my son and he was like 6 months old, we were living in chaos. We were surviving. And then I went back to work, and I thought that me going back to work saved our lives. But really, it was because we had fallen back into routine and we had consistency in a world of. All right. Next up is a tough one, discipline. And I am sure that if you are on this ADHD parenting journey with me, as most of you here are, you have recognized that standard disciplinary practices and techniques don't work. Your child is probably not fazed by much of anything, right? So, what can we do? How can I discipline my child without crushing their spirit? Sarah asked. Discipline is different with ADHD children. It is using logic and love. Consequences need to be immediate because their brain Their executive function of organizing time is hijacked. They don't know what 5 minutes is. They don't know what happened an hour ago. They live in the now. So consequences need to be immediate, relevant, and short lived. Because as their executive function is hijacked on time management, so they don't know what they did an hour ago, they also can't sit there for longer than a few minutes dealing with what happened 30 minutes ago, if that makes sense. They live in the now. It needs to be a quick consequence of what happened that is relevant to what's going on right now. So instead of yelling, let's use our calm but firm voice. Focus on teaching rather than punishing, redirecting, and this is often a forgotten part, but when they get it right, celebrate that. You want more of that. You need to give them that positive affirmation that they can do it so that they know that they can next time. And when you give them that positive redirection and praise, then their brains releases a huge dopamine flood. Okay, mom's proud of me. I'm going to do more of this because I like that nice warm hug on the inside, right? So that's literally what I do in my own home. My son is 9, and if I tell him that he did something wrong, he internalizes that as mom hates me. I'm not good enough. I can't do this right. And I know that that is not the way we are saying it. I hear that. But that's kind of the way they're taking it. And this isn't just an ADHD kid thing. This is even neurotypical children sometimes hear, okay, well, I'm not doing it right. Mom doesn't think that I'm good enough, or mom hates me, or, all types of stuff. So, what can we do? Positive redirection and praise. It's funny that I had wrote calm but firm. My son told me the other day, I asked him how he would describe me as a mom, and he said calm but serious. And I was like, I'll take that win. Thank you for that, sir. Sorry, I am tangled up in some cords. All right. Jessica asked, my ADHD kiddo doesn't seem to respond to traditional timeouts. What now? Timeouts are out of fashion. They are last season to me. This hits a soft spot for me, so I apologize if I'm taking it super woo-woo on you guys. But I read an article a few months back that basically said that when we send our children to a timeout, we are letting them know, without letting them know, the emotion that you are expressing right now is not accepted here. You need to go away to deal with that and handle that alone. And that broke my little mommy heart. I was like, oh, because I often did, say, okay, we were working on homework and it escalated to, you need to go to a timeout and calm down and come back when you're ready to participate. And so I was like falling into that pattern of the article that I had read, right? I was like, oh, I'm out here crushing his spirit. But luckily, I found some alternatives that we can do. And now we do what is called a time in, because let's face it, if my child is pissed off and frustrated, I'm also probably pissed off and frustrated, right? So now we do a time in, which is where we sit together and look at each other angrily across the table or the living room until one of us is calm enough to say, I'm sorry that we're going through this. Mom feels this way. How do you feel? What do we need to do from here? And as much as you might be rolling your eyes like that's so hippie parenting, it totally works. Plus, it doesn't make me feel like I'm sending him away to deal with his frustration alone, which is not the kind of mom I want to be. So I was like, and I told him that's what we were going to do. I said, instead of me sending you away to deal with this all on your own, I want you to sit here with me and we'll calm down together. So let's take a chill out. You let me know when you're ready, or I'll let you know when I'm ready, and we'll go from there. It doesn't have to be that woo woo. You can also sit and use some sensory tools like stress balls, or for some, it's like their favorite blanket and just wrapping up and woo-sawing. For mine, it's probably like punching bag type thing. I don't have one of those chill, relax kids. So whatever works instead of timeouts. Timeouts generally did work for us to calm down, but like I said, I added in that aspect of I really am sending him away, letting him know that the emotion he is expressing right now is not accepted here. And that's silly, right? Our emotions are letting us know there's something to be dealt with, and they're all natural. So what am I doing? Even though I have 6 years of training in positive, mindful, conscious parenting, and even though I have been parenting ADHD style for 9 years, I still learn stuff every day. That's what the whole point of this channel is for me to share with you guys. What is up next? Ooh, homework. Girl, I'm right there with you on that one. So, D said, homework is a nightly battle. Any tips for making it less of a war zone? I can tell you what's worked for me, but I will also tell you this is our main struggle in my household. But it's not that homework is so terrible, even though homework is terrible. The executive function of transitioning from one thing to the next is hijacked, right? That's what ADHD is. ADHD hijacks our 8 executive functions. Our executive functions are life skills. So you're like, well, what next? But we're going to spend many years building those life skills so that they can be functioning before 18. But the one that causes these homework meltdowns is transitioning. And it took me forever to figure this out. It actually was my wise, tiny human that I'm raising that eventually said, Mom, I sat him down at lunch one day. I said, we're having a really hard time with homework every day, and I don't want to have to go through this with you every day. So, what can we do to make this better? He said, Mom, what I want to do is I need you to tell me that I have a timer of a certain amount, or I set it on my phone, and we go 5 minutes from whatever he was really enjoying to the thing that he really doesn't want to do. And he was like 6 when he told me that, and I was like, huh. I didn't find out till many months later that the transitioning aspect of the executive function was the reason for all the meltdowns. But it makes sense though. They're going from something they want to do to something they don't want to do. So it kind of does suck, right? Make homework as easy as possible. Break it down into small chunks. Let them do whatever they want to do first. For us, it'll always be math. We do reading last. We break reading down into small chunks. We read a page or two here and there. However you can do it. Sometimes he's sitting on his head. Sometimes he's running around the couch. Whatever works. And last but certainly not least, bribery. Well, I'm an old-fashioned Southern gal, and I call it bribery, but in this new aged ADHD world, they call it positive reinforcement or reward brain based, but sometimes bribery. If you do a week of homework with no tantrums, I'll offer you something you don't normally get that you want, pizza night or family movie night, or the sugary stuff that moms hide in the back of the cabinets that you're not allowed to have all the time, right? Whatever works. Survival, progress over perfection. My child gets distracted easily during homework. How can I help them? My son's teacher, he's in 3rd grade going into 4th grade now, and my son's teacher told me that if someone sneezes, it takes my child quite a bit to get back in and focused. So I noticed at home, if we're doing our homework and someone drives down our street, he's like, "What's happening? What's going on here? I need to know what's happening." So we meet their distractions head on. We, of course, find a quiet space to do as much as we can, but there's also noise canceling headphones where they can focus in on the assignment on a Chromebook or a tablet. There's the white noise distractor apps. There's also a component of it for me and my son where his mind is here, but his hands and his body and his feet are, everywhere else. So you could use some fidget toys to keep their little hands busy, but their mind with you. Break it down. Keep it in small chunks. Give them time to do maybe 5 math problems and then run. And then maybe do 5 more and then run. Or we try to make it as physical as possible. For us, when we were learning our multiplication table, I would say, "What is 3 times 1? Throw the ball." He would throw it back with an answer. That seems super silly, right? But that actually kept him pretty here and focused with me so that we could get those done. And then once we had worked through them all and got them down, all right, now go jot that down on paper while it's still fresh on your memory. I know we're all just surviving out here. These is just, they're so common. I can relate to everything you guys are asking. Like the next one, lying. Oops, I went a little bit too far. My ADHD child lies frequently. How do I address this? Approach it like a detective, not like a prosecutor. Accusing will only make them internalize that and probably lie more. Children, even neurotypical children, lie to avoid disappointment and punishment. So this is probably a hippie thing, but you need to foster open communication. You need to judgment-free zone. Whatever you did, we can fix it, right? I have repeatedly tried to tell my son that kids make stupid mistakes. That's literally the point of being a child. You're going to learn through making a lot of mistakes, right? Kids do dumb stuff. Even adults do dumb stuff sometimes. And when I do that, I try to tell him, Mom did this today. It was stupid. I could have done da da da. If there's something that you could do differently, what would you do? You might find that they're admitting things. I have a funny little story. I can often tell when my kid is lying. He is not as sneaky as he thinks he is. And I asked him, I went to eat lunch with him one day, and he said, "Mom, I really have to go to the bathroom." And I was like, "Your teacher gives you a bathroom break before you come out to lunch, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, but I was in a rush." He was like, "I've already used 2 of my bathroom breaks today and I only get 3. And I was like, "Were you really using the bathroom or were you bullcrapping?" And he was like, "Mom, I was really using the bathroom." And I was like, He said, okay, I did my bullcrapping and then I used the bathroom. So technically that was a lie, right? But because I didn't judge, dude, come on, you can tell me. I always tell him, you can trust Mom. You can tell Mom anything, and you have to back that up. You can't just throw that out as some vague blanket statement of, you can tell me anything, but then when you tell me, I'm going to rip your head off and be mad at you for 2 weeks. When you say you can tell me anything, you have to back that up with some claims. You could also use role-playing games to practice truth-telling and making honesty a family value. For me, I have let my son know often, like I said, he calls me the calm but serious mom. I don't use corporal punishment around here. I know that I am raising a child in 2024, and it is not like it was when I was born in 1985. I know that in just a few years, my child is going to face situations I can't even imagine, right? I don't even know what 2035 is going to look like. We were already so far from where I grew up. And I want him to be able to trust me. I want him to be able to come to me and know that mom is here for you. Mom will always be here for you. If you fudge up, you can call me. We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. If you do, it's a two-way street. You have to let them know that they can trust you to tell you the truth, and you can't judge them for that. The next question is following along the same lines. Steve says, how can I teach my child with ADHD the importance of honesty? Kind of like we just went over. You have to lead by example. You have to create a safe space for honesty. You cannot judge them. You cannot accuse them. You cannot discipline them and reprimand them for telling the truth. And that's hard, right? When they tell the truth, we got to praise that. We got to praise that. Even if it's something that they did wrong. Even if it's them admitting, Mom, I did this. What's next? Explain how lies can hurt trust in a relationship and use stories that might highlight and value that honesty. For me, I have told you already, I want my son to be able to trust me, but I have flipped that on him also. We cannot be best friends if we don't trust each other. And if you lie to me, I cannot believe what you say. We cannot be best friends and tell each other the truth if one of us is not telling the other one the truth. I have to be able to trust you just like I'm asking you to trust me. Girl, we are hitting on all the hard things this morning. You guys really came with it. All right. Emotional regulation. My child with ADHD has frequent meltdowns. How can I help them manage their emotions? You are going to be home base. You are going to lead by example again. You are going to show them what an emotionally regulated person looks like. If you are always flying off the handle, me when my son was a toddler, that's not setting up a good example, letting them know, okay, when I am frustrated, I self-soothe, I take some deep breaths, I use counting, whatever I can to calm myself down. That if you're not doing that, you are showing them whenever I am mad, I throw things, I yell, I fly off the handle. As much as we want to say, do as I say and not as I do, that it didn't work in the 80s and it's not working now. I'm just going to be honest with you. They're learning by example. They are learning by watching you, and they will pick up on what you do. With that said, as I've already said, ADHD hijacks executive functions. Because of that, one of those executive functions is emotional control, and another one is self-regulation and emotional control. That's two executive functions that pair together to prevent meltdowns that are hijacked by ADHD. So not only are we going to take some time to cultivate these and train those executive functions, you got to be patient. You got to be patient. You got to know that what we're dealing with, you have to acknowledge that these feelings are valid, even if they may seem disproportionate with what's happening. You just got to really be patient and teach in calm moments. And that's what we're going to cover in the next question, which is on the same basis. How can I help my child with ADHD express their emotions appropriately? And there's a bunch of woo-woo stuff that I wrote down here that may or may not help you. And I'll cover that in a minute. But one of the most important things that I have done in the last 3 or 4 years, outside of that heated moment, here's the anger bubble. Maybe later in the day, before we read our stories, but we're already tucked in, we're feeling calm, we're both present, we're not frustrated. I say, earlier today, Mom did not handle that situation the way I would have liked to. I got a little frustrated. Maybe I was a little hangry. If I had the chance to do it again, I would. Is there anything that you might want to do differently next time? Now, I know you're probably rolling your eyes like, how is this going to help my child later? But if you do that every day, those role-playing visualization sessions where you are like, if I could do it differently, I would, and you practice that eventually become reflex. And I know for a fact, because I have watched my son do it. I have watched him learn to regulate himself in certain situations. We're not there across the board yet. Especially like flying off the handle and saying mean things to Mom that he doesn't mean, and that he probably doesn't even know what they mean, right? I told him over and over, when you do things like that, when you say things like that, that makes Mom feel blank. I have watched him multiple times be really frustrated and pause. And when he pauses, I know he's rethinking whatever he was about to do. And when he does that, girl, you got to praise that. You have to praise that, because that is cultivating and strengthening those executive functions that ADHD has taken and hijacked and is over control or in the control towers. So when they are building those muscles and you see that, the other things that I have written down here are use emotional charts and feeling words. Label your feelings and emotions to let them know when they have that. For me, I'm a little anxious right now when my stomach just feels, but nothing's going on, or something might be coming up. And I'm like, that's anxiety. Do you ever feel that? And my son's like, yeah, my stomach hurts a lot. And I feel that when, or Mom's a little frustrated. Something's not going my way and I'm having a hard time dealing with that. So I'm going to take a minute and calm down and regulate myself. Modeling healthy emotional expression, and it's the number one way that practicing those scenarios will help you. Reinforce the idea that it's okay to feel however they're feeling, but how we handle those feelings matters. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie to you, this one's not an easy one. All right, some more ADHD parenting. My ADHD child struggles with transitions. Any tips for a smoother change? Yes, I actually already covered this and didn't even realize it was on down the list. Transitioning is one of the executive functions that is hijacked by ADHD, and ADHD is running the show. As you know, my tiny wise human that I am raising and I get the credit for said, Mom, I need a countdown. I need a timer. I need you to let me know, instead of the hard stop, that we're going from something I love to something I hate. So give plenty of warnings. Use visual timers. There is this really cute rainbow timer on Amazon. It's like a little cloud and the rainbow disappears as their time runs out. My kid's probably too old for it now, but it helps them to see, okay, I have this much left of the rainbow. Because another ADHD executive function Another executive function that ADHD hijacks is the organization of time. So if you tell your child, you have 5 minutes left, they don't know what the heck that means. It's like when they use 504 plans or IEP plans for testing, they give more time to children who have no concept of time. And I was like, I get what you're doing here, but if they don't know what time is, so yeah. Keep routines consistent. Definitely, that will let them know what's coming next. And if they know what's coming next, the tantrum might be shorter. You still might get I don't want to do that. But if they've been doing it every day for a year, it's probably just reflex and their little circadian rhythm, and they're like, ugh, let's go do it. She's not going to leave us alone. We got to do it anyway. Play and practice transitioning games. Make it fun. It's time to leave the park. Or instead of saying that, let's race into our next adventure. It took me forever to realize that this totally works with my son, making everything a game. How fast can we pick up the room? Can you pick up more toys than me? I mean, the list goes on. Now we do it in the evenings when I am cleaning up the kitchen and he's in the shower. Can you get dressed before I get the trash taken out? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I'll take all the help I can get. My child has a hard time with social interactions. How can I support them? Yeah. You have to remember that children with ADHD are often cognitively and behaviorally delayed by as much as 2 to 3 years. So my 9-year-old probably resonates on the level of a 7-year-old. And that's hard to understand and that's hard to train. But one way that I have found to be very helpful outside of playing games with me, when we are reading, I often say, and how do you think that made this character feel? Because if he can recognize what's happening leading up to that, when that situation happens in his own life, he might be like, oh, so I'm making this person feel da da da. There are also a lot of games out there, or games in general, can teach these social skills. Board games can teach social skills of waiting patiently, taking turns, being a good sport, and so on and so on. But if your child plays with characters, even superheroes, and they're being wild and rough and throwing Spider Man, you can say, Spider Man needs a break right now because that's not how he likes to play. He doesn't like to be, played with really rough. And I've tried to express to my son from a very early age, starting with me, for two people to play together, both people have to be having fun. So if you are winning, and then mom wins one, and you flip your lid, how do you think that makes me feel? That's not very fun for me to play when you've won 18 and mom won one and I'm being punished for it. So, different situations like that, you can role play, you can arrange play dates with parents of also neurodivergent children so that everyone understands. You can arrange play dates to where you can let the parent know, hey, we are working on this. Could you help me out with that? I have actually had a wonderful mom do that with me, and our children are kind of on the same path. Again, encourage empathy. It sounds maybe a little crappy, but sometimes I flip the script on my kid and I act like he does in a mocking, fake mom kind of way, letting him know, if I did that to you, how would you feel? And he would say, I would feel pretty bad. And I would say, but that's what you're doing to me. So that is not a muscle that you're going to strengthen overnight. That is going to take a lot of time, a lot of patience on your part, and a lot of exposure. I have one mom friend who removes her son from situations and lets him skip out on things that are uncomfortable and that he doesn't like. And I do not do that because if they do not get to be in those environments to strengthen those skills, those life skills, the executive functioning, the ADHD has completely taken over. How will they ever grow? How will they ever strengthen those muscles and get to the point where they can succeed and thrive in life? So don't take them out of that. Don't let them skip the hard stuff. We don't do that over here. My child often loses their belongings. How can we tackle this? The executive functioning that is hijacked by ADHD, along with losing things, is the organization of materials. It's not just about losing things, their belongings, even though that's the big one. It's also about clients that come to me and they say, we did the homework together and then they didn't turn it in. There's a gap. For my son, for all of second grade, we lost hoodies. We went through so many hoodies. For some of my clients, it is they lose their homework or they lose their water bottle or they don't bring the homework home. They don't bring the folder home that they need for check-ins every day. Older kids, they lose their devices, That is the executive functioning of organization of materials. So what can we do to help? It's old school. It's simple, but it kind of works. Especially if your child is older and there's plenty of apps out there that can create checklists for what they're supposed to do every day. But even if they don't have that, a simple notes reminder, you can make a photo of everything your child needs to bring home and screenshot that and put that as their wallpaper. No, they're not going to like that. But until they get it right, they got to look at that thing, right? Label everything. Create the checklist and keep designated spots for where things go so that your child knows where things go. Teach them the habit of possibly doing a belongings check before they leave any place. This could be part of that game. Okay, we are going into the park and we have 5 items. We have our toy, we have our water cup, we have our hat, we have our snack, and we have our mom. So before we leave, can you tell me the 5 things that we have and can you make sure that we have them? Something simple like that for smaller kids. For older kids, you might need to use if you want to go out with your friends this weekend, then you need to bring this home every day. That sounds like a disciplinary tactic, but it's actually the reward brain based of most ADHD children where, okay, I really want this. So all week long, I need to maintain this. And you'll find that the more you praise, train, and reward those behaviors, you can slack off of the reward. I will tell you this, every time I get a behavior trained and I start slacking off of the reward, something new comes along, something new pops up, and you're like, so I'm trading this one for this one. And then you got to work on that. And it's not linear. You might find that you get those belongings rewards trained and they do great with that for a few weeks. And then you move on to something else. And then you have to circle back because we are building lifelong skills they're going to need. And that does not happen overnight. And that does not happen in a linear fashion. Once they've got it, they've got it. And that's okay. My child is extremely impulsive. Girl, how can I help them think before acting? When my son was very small, we kept getting notes sent home from school that he has a hard time sitting on his assigned square on the carpet. And I thought it might do him some good for us to tell him, hey, buddy, you have ADHD. I didn't say ADHD. We called it fast brain. Mom has fast brain, dad has fast brain, grandpa has fast brain, grandma has fast brain. We all got fast brain. And so what that did was that empowered him to, when he did something really impulsively, I'm like, oh, was that a fast brain decision? And he was like, yeah, that was a fast brain decision. And to the point where at the beginning, he would do something really impulsively and he was like, oh, mama made a fast brain decision. We slowly transitioned to, mom, I almost made a fast brain decision, but I didn't. And when that happens, that takes so much awareness, that takes so much self-regulation, that takes so much executive functioning. That is the building and cultivating of what we want. So when that happens, you have to praise that. You have to really let them know, oh my God, you recognized it and you didn't do it, and that is amazing. Shower that with praises. Give all of that. It's called the stop, think, and act, but in the beginning, you don't really have that. You have to first become aware of those impulsive decisions that you're making. So if my son throws a ball really hard at me and I'm mom and you hurt mom, oh, that was a fast brain decision. And to the point where we get to stop, think, then act. Okay, this is mom. I don't want to hurt her, so I'm going to throw it a little bit easier. Stop, think, and act is a great way to teach them and train them, but you have to kind of build that awareness first. Now that my son is 9, we have kind of let him know, okay, the technical term for fast brain is called ADHD. And now we're moving, more along those lines. You can use visual reminders for impulsive acts. You can definitely play games that require waiting our turn, some self-control. When my son was younger, I asked his teacher to put a stop sign on his desk, like an actual little stop sign, so that she could walk around and point to that to let him know to stop doing whatever he was doing instead of calling his name and redirecting. Because children with ADHD are often redirected 8 times more than their neurotypical peers, and that causes a huge self-esteem and self-confidence issue. So we're trying to redirect positively, but the more that you could, redirect with those visual cues of, maybe it could be at your house, you put in the living room beside the TV. Just those visual cues will help them from not hearing their name so much to where they can maintain and they still feel like they're doing good, and that positive redirection is directing and doing its thing. Whew. Now we're getting into the good stuff. How do I handle screen time? And it's kind of a catch-22 because, like I said, our children work on that dopamine feeling, which is not great in 2024 because the average brain focusing for even adults without ADHD is like 8 seconds. So when they're on those tablets and they get that constant refresh of something new, something new, something new, something new. That's terrible, but they're craving it, right? They want it. As with everything else, I use this as a reward. If you get all your chores done and you read for 30 minutes, maybe if you read for 30 minutes, I'll give you 30 minutes of screen time later. You got to set rules and stick to them like glue. You can use timers on their electronics for breaking it up. Especially now, today's the last day of school for my son here in North Carolina, and the summers are difficult. I will be honest with you. You might want to make sure that the content they are consuming as age appropriate, maybe even educational. There's a funny commercial out right now where she says she plays her children's shows in Spanish. But that's not a bad idea, right? It's a silly commercial, but I was like, use screen time as a reward, but it shouldn't be a default activity. I have also noticed that if I ask my son to go play with me outside for all the feel good refreshment that nature offers in so many levels, he'll give me a good solid 30 minutes before he even thinks about taking a break for screen time. So this is a me thing. My dad is in his 60s and I was born in 1985, and he's like, screens are for lazy parents. And don't tell him I said this, but it's kind of true. I look around and I often see, and no judgment, we do whatever we can to get that moment for us to drink our coffee while it's still semi-warm. So our kids are, on the tablet. Or for a long time, even still sometimes now, my son needs his phone to actually sit down and get him wound down enough to eat. I get that. But if I, like I said, take the initiative and the accountability to say, okay, now it's time to go play, he'll go. So you might find that if you, after a long, hard day of work, give it an extra 30 minutes of really one-on-one physical activity, you might find that screen time is less of an option and less of a chore and a hassle than we've been making it. That's just my personal story. Again, no judgment. My child doesn't seem to understand consequences. What can I do? Again, their brains does not work like yours and mine, especially if they have the impulsive, hyperactive ADHD. There's impulsive and hyperactive, and then there's the inattentive, which is the focus, and then there's the combined, which is the trifecta of all of that, which is what we have in my household. If your child is impulsive and they're living life on the edge and everything is a fun game and everything is super fast, it's going to be really hard for them to even understand what consequences are until you break a bone. So we're going to make consequences immediate and related to the behavior. Immediate. So, and related to the behavior means, okay, so we're inside, we're throwing a ball really hard, and we turn over a lamp. The consequence is mom's taking the baseball or whatever you're playing with for a certain amount of time until you can maybe take it outside or take it in the playroom where there's not so much breakable stuff. You can use visual aids to help illustrate cause and effect until they're old enough to understand. Consistency and patience is key. Make sure that they know what is expected of them. And we're going to use positive reinforcement for when they get it right. This is so key. So if I catch my son going outside to play baseball instead of throwing it in the house wildly, thank you, sir. I see you. I see you doing the big boy thing and taking it outside where there's not so much breakable stuff. Consequences have to be immediate because, again, their organization of time management is gone. So if something happens at school earlier that day and you try to punish your child whenever they come home, they don't understand that. And that's hard. So immediate, relevant, and age appropriate time-wise. I want to add maybe make it connected to the emotion of, what's going on. If there is another person in the picture, maybe even in the baseball example, these are mom's things. I care a lot about my things. Could you take a little bit more care of them? Letting them know how you feel or how the other person in the situation feels might make it stick a little bit more. How can I help my child with their self-esteem? And it's hard because, like, I think I read the latest statistic is 40% of children with ADHD struggle with anxiety and self-esteem issues. We're going to shower them with praise when they do things right, and not just vague, fake praise. When they do it right, when they hit their strength, like for my son with math, he kicked the math integrate assessments butt. Let him know that. Let him know these are all the things that you do. Encourage hobbies where they excel, that you know they'll be good at. Put them in uncomfortable situations to show them, oh my God, you did it. Like try it one time, see how it goes. Build them up. Teach them to set achievable goals and celebrate them when they hit them. I also learned recently that you can do a success jar. So when your child does something big or small and they get something right, put it in this jar. And when they're feeling down on themselves, you two go over the jar to show them how far they've come and all the things that they get right. So if they're having a, I never get anything right, I'm no good kind of day, well, here's a lot of proof, buddy, that you are. So remind them that everyone has challenges and that there are more with ADHD. That's okay to let them know. It is not an excuse. It is a valid disorder, and we are going to let them know. Sometimes we're going to struggle a little bit further, a little bit harder, but you're doing great. My child seems constantly restless. How can I help them channel their energy? Physical activity is your best friend, girl. Incorporate movement breaks throughout the day. Team sports is great. Dancing for girls, family yoga, fidget tools and toys whenever there is no physical activity. But if most of your child's day is structured around physical activity breaks, it'll be your best friend, girl. And we only have one child, so this means that my 39-year-old butt gets outside and I play. I mean, I often try to take him to the park so that he can find children his own age to play with, but most of the time it's me. And that's okay because, like I said, we go to bed at 8:30, both of us, no judgment. Gotta do what I gotta do. Yeah, girl, we are active. We try to set it up to where he plays basketball for a majority of the year. We only have summers off, which sounds crazy and counterproductive, but he goes to summer camp, so he'll still be active. But yeah, girl, physical activity is your best friend. You have to run through it until you find the one that really sticks. And I mean, they have ADHD. So this week it might be riding the bicycle. Next week it might be baseball. Whatever it is, you got to rock with it that week and you got to do what you have to do for the week. How can I communicate effectively with my ADHD child? Keep it simple. Keep it clear. Direct. Use eye contact and get down to their level. I remember what it feels like being tiny and someone standing over you yelling at you. So squat down, break it into manageable steps because the ADHD brain is working off of something shiny. So when you are giving 7 instructions, this is literally what's going to happen. Step number 1, nothing shiny in there. Step number 2, nothing shiny in there. But over there's something shiny. So by step 3, girl, they are gone. And they don't even care. There is nothing shiny on that list. I'm going to find something shiny. And that's a silly example, but that's how their brains work. There's a meme, distracted by something shiny or squirrel. Yeah, that's how it works. So break it down into steps, use age appropriate language, use visual reminders to be your best friend. If those visual schedules that they have on Amazon are really fun, let your child create it, be a part of it so that they know and they get excited about it and they stick to that. Be patient because repetition is necessary. My notes say repetition might be necessary, but repetition is not necessary. It's not a might. It is absolutely 100% needed. You're going to have to do this multiple times until your child gets it. And even when you think you have it down pat, in 6 months, you might be working on the same thing again. Last question for today. How do I take care of myself while managing my child's ADHD? That is a perfect one to end on. Girl, and I know people are like rolling their eyes every time I say this, but we are raising children that have given us a unique, wonderful, but very challenging task. Parenting is hard no matter what. ADHD parenting is a battlefield. And I had a psychologist reframe it for me recently. All of my friends feel guilty for taking time away from their kids to go do stuff for themselves. I don't know if it's the way we were raised. I don't know if it's the mom friends that I have, like the circle I've cultivated or what. But she was like, the psychologist was like, no, we do not take time away from our children for ourselves. We take time away from our children to come back to be better parents. And I was like, I'm going to tell all of them that. They all need to hear it. You literally cannot pour from an empty cup. And let's be real, with ADHD, the cup is bouncing, jiggling, and wiggling. So it's already pouring out, girl. So you have to do whatever you can to refill your cup. It is like trying to drink coffee while riding a bicycle, okay? It is not an easy task. So what are you going to do? You're going to take breaks for yourself. You're going to ask for help when necessary and available. You're going to connect with other ADHD parents because your parent friends who are parenting neurotypical children do not know what the heck you have going on. They're like, oh, what? We don't do that over here. I tell my kid what to do and they go do it. And you're like, I will slap your face right now. Stop. Find your tribe. If you can't find them locally, you can find them online. If you want to try to cultivate them locally, we actually started a Lego club here for neurodivergent children so that they could meet children like them and we could meet parents that we could relate to. You could possibly look into your local library for that. Your well-being is crucial for both you and your child. You will be a better mom when taking care of yourself. I promise. That is it for today, guys. This has been so much fun. Thank you for submitting your questions. You can submit them at danielle@themeditatedmama.com. You can find more on me in the pinned comments. I will drop that in there. And if you're ready to take your parenting journey to the next level and get your sanity and your life back, my calendar will be available. You can schedule your first consultation always for free. Bring me your problems. If you like how I handle it, we'll get you in for another session. Thank you guys. You guys are doing amazing. Don't give up. You can't give up. You're doing great. Thank you guys.